I realized that there was a way to make money on Airbnb without owning an apartment. So in 2017, I set up a service accommodation business. I had no previous experience. I didn't have a huge amount of capital to start. All I had was time. I rented apartments from letting agents on a long-term basis, which I then rented out on a short-term basis. Each apartment I took on was making me £1,000 per month. I was managing a portfolio of 40 apartments. A lot of people that start a service accommodation business are fully reliant on Airbnb and Booking.com, but I didn't want to be. I realized there was a way to make more money than being on Airbnb and Booking.com, which no one else talks about. Maybe everyone doing this is trying to keep it a secret. One booking was making me net £2,513.50 per month. This booking was initially for 4 months, and I had 2 of these bookings, and I got this booking from. Please do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps me more than you think. My story, why I quit my job. I felt this was important as it gives some context and how and why I discovered service accommodation, which isn't reliant on Airbnb. At the time, I was working at Standard Bank, which is a South African investment bank in the city. I've been investing, so physically buying property part-time since 2010, and I decided I wanted to go into property full-time. I thought if I dedicated all my time to it, then I would be able to grow my property portfolio quicker and faster. I was building a buy-to-let property portfolio because I wanted to benefit from the monthly cash flow and long-term capital appreciation. Monday to Friday, I was not seeing my daughter. I really wanted to spend more time at home and didn't just want to see her on the weekend. The solution, which wasn't the solution. I spent some time looking at ways in which I could boost my cash flow and decided I was going to invest in HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. I was told that the cash flow was more than a single let and you could potentially earn £1,000 per month per property. So I spent some time looking at HMOs in Stevenage, Hatfield and Bedford. I was told that I could get a commercial valuation based on the rental income, which would mean I could pull all of my money back out and go again. I actually agreed to buy a 10-bedroom HMO in Bedford, but when I looked into getting a commercial valuation, I soon realized this was not going to be the case. The 10-bed HMO didn't have en-suites in every room, and my broker said to me that if it looks like the house next door, then it'll get valued like the house next door based on its bricks and mortar value. I also spoke to Cambridge and Counties, and they even said to me that they would be looking for me to leave some hurt money in the project. I realised I would be leaving in at least £100,000, so decided not to pursue this strategy. Even houses in Stevenage, if I converted a 3-bedroom house into a 5-bed HMO, I would still be leaving in roughly £100,000 per project. The problem with HMOs, especially in the south, is that because the capital values are high, it can prove very difficult to recycle a lot of your money back out. My problem, back to work. A few months into me living the dream, I did get a call from Standard Bank asking if I could come back and work, which I agreed to. If I quit my job, I no longer had a salary coming in, so getting a buy-to-let mortgage would be more challenging. This is one of the big issues when you are trying to build a property portfolio. There are some lenders out there that will consider the property based upon its rental income, but to get access to the majority of lenders with the best rates and loan to value, lenders generally want to see you have a salary of at least £26,000 per annum coming in. They don't like you being reliant on your own portfolio as your only source of income. I felt like it was a catch-22 situation. I wanted to quit my job to build a property portfolio, but I needed to show a salary of at least £26,000. So I ended up back at work and spent a year or so there until I had figured out the solution to this problem, how I started service accommodation business. I decided I needed to have another business which I could pay myself a salary from, which would allow me to carry on building my property portfolio. I decided to start a rent-to-rent serviced accommodation business. This business would allow me to take on apartments which I rented from letting agents. I could then let them out on a short-term basis, and I realized that per apartment I could make about £1,000 per calendar month per apartment. I decided that I didn't want to deal with short-term bookings and wanted longer corporate bookings. When I was working at Standard Bank, we used to have a number of apartments that we would rent out on a short-term basis from people coming over from South Africa for projects. Staying in a service department meant that Standard Bank staff didn't have to spend a long period of time in a small hotel room and also had the ability to cook for themselves if they wanted. I started the business by contacting a lot of the big employers in Stevenage and seeing whether or not they had staff that needed an apartment over and above a hotel room. The companies I contacted had people coming in from all over the world world that were initially staying in hotels and then they were left to try and find their own accommodation. These employees didn't like the idea of staying in a small hotel for a long period of time. I soon built up a list of corporates in the area and used this information to approach letting agents. I would show them the emails from these corporates looking for medium to long-term accommodation. I pitched to letting agents that I needed a number of apartments for these corporate employers. Because I showed them the emails, they had no reason to doubt me, and straight away I managed to secure a studio apartment paying a deposit, 1 month's rent in advance, and then furnishing the apartment, which cost about £1,500. The corporates were paying me £90 a night, so that's £2,700 a month. The total costs for this apartment were £1,063. The profit on this one studio apartment was £1,637. The letting agent started calling me and saying that he had another studio, then a 1-bed, and then another 1-bed, and then he had a number of 2-beds coming on. I was more nervous when it came to the 2-bedroom apartments because the rent was £1,200 per calendar month, but I decided I would try a few to see how they performed before taking on many more. Quite quickly, I was managing a number of these apartments. I didn't have any intention on taking on so many apartments in a short period of time, but the letting agent had taken on a new development in the town centre and he had lots of apartments available for rent. Going forward, I wanted to reduce my risk and my exposure, so started to negotiate on things like the deposit and the rent. I started to use deposit insurance instead of paying a deposit, and I also started to look for fully furnished apartments. So again, my initial outlay was reduced even further. I also started to negotiate on the rent, especially where I was taking on a number of these apartments, and especially where the apartments were owned by, say, one international landlord and who was keen to have one company manage and be responsible for these. At the time, I genuinely thought it would be difficult to get these apartments on a rent-to-rent basis, but soon I realised my service accommodation model was slightly different. Most agents had been approached by people looking to take on these apartments and list them on Airbnb and Booking.com, but I was different and I pitched that I was doing more professional corporate lets, which meant less risk for them. I remember when I started taking on units in Welwyn Garden City that the agent there was initially asking me for 6 months rent in advance. I said there was no chance and said we would be happy to pay 1 month's rent in advance, but we were looking to take on a number of these units and therefore we were not in a position to pay such a large deposit up front. The agent, namely the owner of the apartment, was nervous, but as soon as we showed them the type of bookings we were receiving in our apartments, their mind was put at rest. In the end, we took 9 apartments in a block that were all let to IT staff coming from India. The IT contractors were not allowed to share apartments and we had one person staying in each of our 2-bedroom apartments paying £110 a night. That was £3,300 a month, with the rent on these apartments being £1,100 with a clean every fortnight. The total costs per month was around £1,600, resulting in a monthly profit of £1,700 per apartment. It was nuts. My experience on Airbnb and Booking.com. I did used to list my apartments on Airbnb and Booking.com and used to use these portals for 2 main reasons. To supplement any empty nights I had. There might be a gap of, say, 1 or 2 weeks between long stay corporate bookings, and so I would utilize Airbnb and Booking.com to try and fill these available nights. Advertising. Gone are the days where employers book accommodation for their employees, so anyone coming to the UK to work on a particular project for a period of time are usually expected to book their own accommodation, which is usually the nearest hotel initially, and then they search for long-term accommodation. With Airbnb, you tend to get long-term tourist types of bookings, in my experience, compared with Booking.com, where you tend to get shorter stays, and this can be contractors or business travelers. Working with these online travel agents allowed me to systemize the business so that I could spend more time viewing properties in order to build up my property portfolio. I was able to use systems and processes so that the day-to-day running of the business was automated. If I received a booking, then my channel manager, which is a piece of software, would block out those dates so that no one else could book those dates on any other portal. My cleaner would get notified that a clean was due when the guest was expected to check out. My channel manager would automatically send the check-in and check-out instructions once a verified booking came in, so that the guest knew where the apartment was and how to get in. Use all the appliances, and we even had information including where the nearest supermarket was, where the nearest hospital was, where the nearest train station was, attractions in the area. All this was to reduce the amount of messages, so over time we would add to our automated responses so that over time we would get even less and less questions and inquiries. For example, if someone messaged saying if there were any spare towels or extra toilet roll, we had saved replies in our channel manager that would send back automated response saying there were spare toilet rolls, towels in the cupboard. The secret to big bookings. I approached a lot of the big employers direct. I would use LinkedIn to find the hiring manager or someone in human resources and then contact them directly to find out if they had employees coming into the area that needed help with longer term accommodation. I also came across these serviced accommodation agencies. These agencies provide medium to long term bookings and are usually used by corporates for, again, employees that are on secondment, a short term project, or relocating permanently but are looking for a temporary solution until they find somewhere to live. Some of the corporate agencies I listed my apartments with included the following. Silverdoor. For example, I received an inquiry which subsequently converted into a confirmed booking for 107 nights, paying £135 per night, for which I took a security deposit of £500 and charged a separate cleaning fee of £60. The monthly revenue from this one booking was £135 times say 30 nights, £4,050. There was commission to pay for this booking to Silverdoor, which was 12.5% plus VAT. So the net revenue from this booking was £3,442.50. The all-in costs for this apartment were £929. The cash flow from this one booking was £2,513.50. Absolutely nuts. And that wasn't the best part. The best part was that they needed 2 apartments. This inquiry went ahead and the guests checked into both apartments on the 8th of June and are due to check out at the end of September. Fingers crossed they extend. Situ. For example, I had a guest that checked into one of our apartments. The initial booking was for 61 nights, but they ended up staying with us for 197 nights, paying £130 per night. The monthly revenue from this booking was £3,900. The commission for this booking was 15%, which meant the net revenue was £3,315. The total costs for this apartment were £1,561, so the monthly cash flow was £1,754. There are other agencies as well that offer long-term bookings. For example, Spotterhome. This is a startup that has become very popular. It's usually aimed at students and working professionals that are coming to the UK for study or work who tend to want to book apartments for the longer term without necessarily viewing them in person. Spotterhome showcases the apartments through in-depth videos and even says it will show you the wine stains on the carpet. The aim is to help foreign travellers to book without having to view in person. Usually these people are after a fully furnished apartment as they won't qualify for an AST. I had one booking from Spotterhome from the 10th of June to the 20th of August 2022 and the total payout for this booking was £7,498. That's £3,168 in revenue per month. The total costs of running this apartment was £1,485, so the cash flow per month was £1,683. I have another booking which is coming up, which is from the 15th of September 2022 to the 25th of August 2023. Yes, that's right, August 2023. And the payout is £36,255, which is roughly £3,197 per month. The all-in costs for this apartment are again £1,485, so the cash flow from this one booking is £1,712 per month. HomeLike. HomeLike is the largest online marketplace for long-term furnished apartment rentals for expats and working professionals from around the world. Insurance companies. We work with insurance companies and these companies look for emergency accommodation and usually families who have had an emergency at their own home, such as a fire or a flood, which means that they have to temporarily move out until the issue is fixed. These can be very long bookings. I had an insurance booking for 56 nights. They were paying £150 per night. The revenue from this booking was £4,500. The commission due to the insurance company was 12.5% plus VAT, so £675. The total costs for running this particular apartment was £1,485. So the monthly cash flow was £2,340. The benefit of working with these agencies is that they usually provide medium to long-term bookings. Usually in-house guests tend to extend. There is less risk using these types of agencies. With Airbnb and Booking.com, there's always the risk that someone is going to have a party and cause damage to the property. With these agencies, they tend to provide accommodation for contractors or working professionals, or even families that need emergency accommodation, so they really look after the property. This model is a much better model than being completely reliant on Airbnb and Booking.com, and you can actually make more money and attract really good medium to long-term bookings. I call this my service accommodation supercharged model, SAS. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below.